Let's do it. We're Miami Dolphins.
The pressure, he's in trouble. Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle. It's a Dolphin touchdown.
Throwing deep upfield on the near side, man open, touchdown! Looking deep, he's got a man! Touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep! He's got it for the touchdown!
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fire to the end zone. Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. 1, 2, 3, let's go!
What's good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason, and we are back here for yet another one as we welcome all of y'all in on this Friday night. I hope each and every one of you have had a fantastic week and have a fantastic weekend planned for you. We got a ton to go over tonight. I was actually deciding, what am I going to do this tonight? Am I going to do it tomorrow? But you know what? Something that's not being talked about, and I want to get ahead of the curve, that needs to be talked about a little bit more. We're going to talk about it tonight, as in my opinion, even with the news that Josiah Anderson broke just a mere half hour ago, I still the chances of Vic Fangio being Miami's defensive coordinator by Monday or Tuesday, in my opinion, are growing significantly right now. So, and I was already pretty confident we were going to get him. So we're going to talk about all that. I'm also going to talk about what came out. Did no one listen to what Nalu said? Nalu told all of y'all that Tua was in that concussion protocol. I don't understand. We're going to talk about all that because, you know, people be wilding out over this concussion protocol thing. And I'm going to tell you exactly why it don't matter. Okay? Number one, which if you've been watching this channel, you would know that. On top of that, we got part 3 and part 4 of that Barry Jackson series we've been following along with. And part 4 actually explores backup quarterback options from Barry's perspective. So we're going to go over that. We got some analytics to show you about the offensive line that shows you just how much the coaching staff did not trust the current offensive line. So you know we're going to go over that. Some more stuff, just on the concussion stuff. And then a little Brian Flores story that I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, we got a ton to go over here. You know, I see people overreacting here. You know, it's funny to me. I'm sitting here and I'm watching people who are in this community now who weren't in this community a year and a half ago. They built their presence in this community off the back of Tua Tagovailoa. And now to see the flip-flopping. Now to see the flip-flopping is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, you know, I don't, you know, I'm sitting here and I'm watching this. First of all, it's bad enough I got to listen to this person who clearly doesn't know football very well anyways. And then now the flip-flopping. It's unbelievable, man. All because of people not actually understanding and grasping what's happening here with Tua Tagovailoa. Like I've told people before, and we'll get into it deeper tonight. We're not talking about a guy who's sitting in a dark room. We're not talking about a guy who can't watch TV. We're not talking about a guy who can't do any of this stuff. It's not like he was stuck in stage 1 of the concussion protocol. Man, you're in stage 4. What are you going to do right now? Do people not understand what stage 5 is? What are we going to... Dolphins are going to schedule a practice tomorrow so Tua can go practice and clear concussion protocol? Because that's actually what needs to happen. And again, all these people making a big deal about the Pro Bowl. Oh, it's a flag football game. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. Brother, we're not talking about all pro here. We're talking about Pro Bowl. Number 2, I'm worried. I want his brain weight and his brain baseline to get back to what it was before the concussions. You think I really care about him going out and playing a Pro Bowl game? What is it? So all of y'all can just say our quarterback is in the Pro Bowl? If they're rolling with Tua next year, which they most certainly are from my understanding, what do you think matters to me? Him being ready for opening day or him being ready for the Pro Bowl? What do you think means? Like, get your priorities straight. Seriously here. It's unbelievable. Like, it's just, y'all are prioritizing pardon my language, cover your kids' ears. Y'all are prioritizing the fucking Pro Bowl over opening day next year. Explain to me in what world that makes sense. Brother, they've been talking about abolishing the Pro Bowl. People have been complaining about abolishing the Pro Bowl for like how long now, because it doesn't mean anything. Right? Like, at least baseball, they give you a home field advantage to the winning team in the World Series. Like, the Pro Bowl means fuck all. But what? Just because you want to be able to watch a Dolphin play? We're already going to have a couple Dolphins at the Pro Bowl. Why does Tua need to be there? If that's not a priority right now. You think it's a priority for his doctors and him to get in a simulated practice, or to get into practice to clear concussion protocol so he can go play in the Pro Bowl? Get your fucking mind right now. The fact that I actually have to explain this is unbelievable. And guess what? I'll do you one even better. Tua still gets the Pro Bowl notch. When you go on his Wikipedia page, it's still going to say Pro Bowl. So he still gets the accolade. He's still a Pro Bowler. He's just not playing in the Pro Bowl. He was the number 1 alternate. And either Mahomes or Burrow are going to be playing in the Super Bowl, so that means he is going to be a Pro Bowler. It's going to say Pro Bowler 2022 under his Wikipedia. Listen, again, I go back to Sidney Crosby. It's funny how I always find correlation between these two. Do you know how many All-Star games Sidney Crosby has sat out of? Even when he's not injured. He says, "No, I'm good. I ain't going to the All-Star game." Like, the NHL had to start implementing fines and rules that if you were, like, not on IR, if you were not seriously injured, then you had to show up if you were voted in. And Sidney Crosby was a big reason of that, because Sidney Crosby, like any smart athlete, realizes, what the fuck does this All-Star game mean in the long term of things if there's nothing to benefit from it other than, what, $50,000, $100,000 if you're the MVP of it? And you get a nice little truck when they can already buy whatever car they want? You think they care about no, these guys look at who makes the All-Pro team. They don't look at who makes the Pro Bowl. Hey, Ben, I ain't knocking people going to the Pro Bowl. Go to the Pro Bowl all you want. I'm talking about from a player perspective. Put yourself in a player's perspective. I mean, we don't even got to talk about Tua. We can talk about Tannehill. Do we got to really talk about what we've seen happen as Dolphin fans with non-contact injuries? Imagine if a non-contact injury happens to an important player at the Pro Bowl. That means they're going to miss potentially. Like, imagine if someone tears their ACL at the Pro Bowl. That recovery time, they might miss the whole next year from a non-contact injury. Ryan Tannehill, in practice, non-contact injury. I believe Teddy Bridgewater, after the knee, had a non-contact injury, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that one. Anyways, my whole point is it doesn't matter. So I'm not sitting here, and we'll talk about this in a sec, but, you know, I'm not one of these people over here losing my mind because he's in. Listen, guys, let's remember it. Let's think back a little. Let's use our minds, right? If you've been along with me and we've read the articles together, you saw that neurologists generally agree that players who have had 3 concussions within months should sit out a while. He obviously had 2 or 3. So now we're going to be mad at everyone for being cautious over a game that doesn't matter. Make that make sense, man. And he's been in protocol, what, 4 weeks now? December 26th? Do you guys remember that tight end, Darnold Parham, when he sustained a concussion and was hospitalized on December 16th, 2021? He missed the final 3 games, and he wasn't cleared until February 2022. That was a guy who wasn't cleared for almost 2 months. And Tua has been hospitalized. Remember, the Bengals time he was already hospitalized. He's already been hospitalized. Come on, man. Let's use our thinking caps here. Let's use our brains. This is, you know, this is a smart, well, you know, Tua's bad for business, you know. Well, this is a business decision. What matters more to you, being ready for the Dolphins 2023 opening day or being ready for the Pro Bowl? What matters more to you? What? Because some of these people haven't had the luxury of watching the Dolphins players play in late January, early February. Now they want to watch them in the Pro Bowl, and they're gonna make a big deal about that. Come on, I'm more worried about a Super Bowl. I ain't worried about a Pro Bowl. The only pro accolade I'm worried about is All Pro. All right? Give me a break. I just don't get it. It's like, where are your people's heads out? It's unbelievable. All right, let's get into this. We got big domino following, I think, in my opinion here. Let's hop right into it. Let's explain. Because as you guys know, for the past, you know, since this defensive coordinator search has begun, and the Fangio stuff, which I've been on for over a year now, with McDaniel's tie to Fangio, I've said from the beginning 2 things. One, our biggest threat is Jonathan Gannon, and if he leaves and leaves the opening in Philly, right? I've said that is our, you know, that is our biggest threat. Is Jonathan Gannon leaving and Philly opening up a job. That's the 2-for-1 biggest threat right there. He leaves and they don't hire a guy like Denard Leonard inside, and they turn to Fangio. Our biggest threat since the beginning, I've said, is Jonathan Gannon leaving and the Eagles' job opening up. And then on top of that, I said our biggest threat was, for Jonathan Gannon leaving, Houston. Because, you know, Gannon and Houston were clearly, you know, really close, but DeMeco Ryans was right there with them. So here is what was announced just a couple of hours ago by Ian Rappaport. DeMeco Ryans has emerged as a top candidate for the Texans, sources tell me and Tom Pelissero. He's expected to meet with Houston at some point next week after the game. There is mutual interest, and if all goes well, he could be their next head coach. And that means a whole hell of a lot, because all of a sudden, that takes Gannon out of the running, right? Frank Reich, and we'll talk about Carolina in a bit here. Frank Reich's in Carolina. The Colts seem like it's going to be Saturday or Raheem Morris. Arizona, we've heard Brian Flores, Vance Joseph, but we haven't really heard rumblings about Gannon and, even D'Amico over there. Denver is going to have an opening. But Denver, the only name we heard out of those two was D'Amico. Right? It was D'Amico and Dan Quinn. So, unless Denver comes out of left field and says, okay, yeah, we'll take Gannon, which I don't know. I don't know, man. It just, that is a huge, huge domino. So much so that Elliot Shore Parks, he is an Eagles reporter for 94 WIP Sports Radio in Philadelphia. All right. He also has a podcast called Go Birds Go. We're talking about a guy with over 100,000 followers on Twitter plugged in the Eagles. And this is what he said after that announcement. Great news for Eagles that it looks like Jonathan Gannon will be back as defensive coordinator next year. Right there, you got an Eagles beat guy who works for 94 WIP Sports Radio telling y'all, saying it looks like Gannon's going to be back as defensive coordinator next year. And this was our biggest threat to the job. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Carolina. Don't worry, we're going to talk about Carolina. Everyone needs to relax. We're going to talk. You know how Reason does it. He goes chronologically. So let's keep going here. So right now, this is a massive domino falling in favor because yesterday, if you remember when me and Neil were talking, the dominoes really weren't starting to fall in our favor, right? Dan Quinn backed out, and then we're like, man, is D'Amico going to go to Denver? And then Houston opens up for Gannon. Well, now it looks like D'Amico and Houston are pretty much locked in, and they have their interview, and it's all that capital and everything in place. Looks like D'Amico Ryans is going to take the Houston job, and even Philadelphia Eagles beat reporters are now reporting Jonathan Gannon looks like he's going to return. This is the biggest hurdle for us to clear. I don't care about Carolina. I don't care about San Francisco. I don't care about nothing. This was the biggest hurdle for us to clear. In my opinion, this is the biggest hurdle for us to clear. All right? Now, everyone, you see him in the chat. They keep mentioning Carolina. Now, if you're a Patreon, patreon.com/Phinside the NFL, you got my original 4 teams. But Carolina wasn't a part of that because Carolina hadn't made the Frank Reich hire yet. We'll get into this in a second. Also, Patreons, if you haven't had a chance yet, I uploaded episode 2 of 3 Takes Thursday, late last night. So go check that out. Also, for all of y'all who aren't Patreons, there's a ton of Fangio info. There's a real interesting name in terms of a contingency plan. I'm hearing that, rumblings from the 49er side and from slight rumblings from our side that it could be a real possibility. Go check that out. Like Neil said, it's a juicy name and it's really worth the interest. So it's really worth it. So go check it out. And I'm also dropping video content on there weekly now. So, but I digress. I'm not overly worried about what I'm about to show you guys right now. All right. So here is what is going on. Josina Anderson reported, I'm told Frank Reich would like to have Vic Fangio join his staff to coordinate the defense. Momentum gathering for that hire, per league source, could take the Panthers, making Fangio the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Let me ask all this. You read that, okay? First of all, there's a lot of ifs here, all right? First of all, Frank Reich would like to have Vic Fangio, okay? Well, I would like to win $1 million. You know what I mean? Right? I would like to walk outside right now and I got a Range Rover sitting in the driveway and, I got a Nissan, I got an NSX. I'm a sucker for the NSXs. I got an NSX an Acura NSX sitting in my freaking, garage under a tarp. I would like that too, but, shit in one hand, wish in the other, and see which one fills up first, basically, all right? Momentum gathering for that hire. could take the Panthers making Fangio the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL. Am I really scared when I see someone say, oh, it could take the big... Brother, the one we can say all we want about Stephen Ross, but my friends, that guy has got pockets deeper than, the lowest part of the ocean on planet Earth, okay? Am I worried? No. Josine Anderson already reported we've already talked terms and conditions. I'm going to tell you all this right now. D'Amico gets the job. Gannon stays in Philly. If that happens, Fangio coming to Miami. Carolina. Are people really worried? Who is closer to winning right now? Carolina, and we all know what Steve Wilkes did, but we all know Frank Reich's history. Frank Reich isn't exactly, that's not exactly job insurance. All right? There's a good chance Mike McDaniel in Miami, there's a very, very good chance Mike McDaniel is going to outlast Frank Reich as a head coach with their current teams. All right? You want to hitch who's really going to hitch their career to that wagon? You might not even make it up the street. I don't know about that. So, for me, I've said this. Listen, the only other, I would be more worried about San Francisco than on my Carolina. From what I understand, Fangio, his girlfriend, spouse, whatever, significant other, she's a surgeon on the West Coast. So, and someone told me that Big O reported this. I have not verified this, but Big O apparently reported that Fangio's mother lives in lives in South Florida. So, now we know he's got a ton of family out in Pennsylvania, but apparently Big O reported that Fangio's mother lives in Florida. I didn't even hear Big O say that. Actually, EM Dolphin fan told me that Big O said that. So if I got that wrong, go blame Big O, EM Dolphin fan. It just doesn't make sense. Carolina, man, I'm worried. Any numbers Carolina's, from what I understand, listen, this is how I understand the interview with Fangio went. Okay? From what I understand, all right, they treated this guy like freaking, y'all ever seen Aladdin? When Aladdin comes in as like, Prince Alibaba? That's basically how they treated, all right? That's basically how this man was treated. He did everything but come in, enter the facility on a freaking elephant. That's basically what I'm told and what I'm led to understand. So, Knight says Big O was talking about it yesterday. Yeah, there you go. Big O was talking about it. There you go. So, from my understanding, Fangio had the absolute red carpet rolled out for him, had everything to the T's. They made him feel welcome, like he was wanted. And essentially, they put the ball in his court. From what I understand, as close to, giving the guy a blank check as possibly, as possible. Any term and condition he had was basically agreed upon. It's going to come down to him. So, I just hope he doesn't use us as leverage in negotiations. That's all I'm hoping, is he doesn't use us in leverage with negotiations with someone else. I just want to see that play out, because that wouldn't be fun. That wouldn't be fun at all. You know what I mean? So, listen. I would be honestly shocked. Because Jeremy Fowler even reported that one name to watch for the Panthers DC on Frank Reich's staff is the Jets safety coach, Marquand Manuel. Right? Here you go. One name to watch. And this is just before Josina Anderson made her report. So you got Marquand Manuel coming out here. So, I don't know. The reports are a little all over the place, man. A lot of mixed messages coming out. You know, why is news about other candidates coming out at the same exact time if Fangio they were so dead set on Fangio? I don't know. You know what it sounds like? Carolina wants Fangio, but they're getting their ducks in order because they know they ain't getting Fangio. If you want my honest opinion, that's what it sounds like. That's how I perceive this right now, at least. So, listen. I ain't worried. At all. Jonathan Gannon, by the sounds of it, as I've shown you, it sounds like he's going to be the defensive coordinator in Philly next year, and it sounds like DeMeco Ryans is going to be taking that Houston job next week. So there you go. There you go. We'll see how it plays out, man. We will see how it plays out. Hey. I don't know, man. You know, when I saw DeMeco is going to Houston and that was Gannon's only job right now, it seems like, you know, I'm telling you, man, I really like our chances at landing Fangio by next week. I really like our chances at landing Fangio next week. So we'll keep following this as everything progresses here. But we'll keep it moving here along. We'll get into the Tua stuff. But, yeah, dominoes are falling our way right now. That's for sure. All right. Earlier today, Twitter and the Dolphins community went a little bit of ablaze when Marcel Louis-Jacques' report came out. But clearly, not a lot of people who were losing their minds were actually reading. I know reading comprehension beyond a grade 2, grade 3 level is asking a lot for some people in this community. But, you know, sometimes you got to go there, guys. Sometimes you got to show off that old high school degree y'all worked so hard for, all right? And some of you didn't. But anyways, all right, this is what happened. Tagovailoa is still in protocol to miss Pro Bowl games, the source says. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa remains in the concussion protocol and will not participate in next week's Pro Bowl games, a source told ESPN on Friday. Tagovailoa had been named a first alternate Pro Bowler and was set to replace either Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes, with both quarterbacks playing in Sunday's AFC Championship game and one bound for the Super Bowl. However, Tagovailoa entered the protocol December 26 after suffering a concussion in Miami's loss to the Green Bay Packers the day before and missed the team's final 3 games of the season, including a wild-card loss to the Buffalo Bills. According to the source, Tagovailoa's time in the protocol has been deliberate as he meets with multiple doctors and specialists. There has not been any setbacks as the Dolphins prioritize his long-term health. The third-year quarterback set career highs in passing yards and touchdowns this season while leading the NFL in passer rating. He was also the top vote getter in Pro Bowl fan voting. Tagovailoa missed the better part of 6 games after suffering concussions in Week 4 and Week 16. The NFL and NFLPA launched 2 joint reviews into how his head injuries were handled this season, the first of which resulted in the termination of an unaffiliated neurological consultant who cleared Tagovailoa to play after he hit his head in Week 3 and stumbled shortly after. The NFL altered its concussion protocol as a result of that joint review. General Manager Chris Greer said earlier this month that the team will enter the 2023 season with Tagovailoa as its starting quarterback and that doctors they have spoken to do not believe the quarterback's concussions will leave him more susceptible to head injuries moving forward. The Dolphins have a May first deadline to exercise the 5th-year option. Again, I've told all of y'all where I'm at. I would not exercise the 5th-year option. I would let him play it out and then pay him. But, hey, if you exercise it, I get it. Because if he balls out next year, then the following year after that, he's only $22 million. And he's cleaned up the ticky-tacky injuries. If that baseline of his brain gets back to what it was before the concussion, which we've gone over on this channel, neuroscientists and neurophysicians think it will by the start of the season. It's a high probability that it will. Then he's going to be back to normal. And if he cleans up the ticky-tacky stuff and the head injuries are no longer an issue and he plays a full 17-game season, look out, man. Look out, NFL. We are going to be a scary, scary offense. Scary offense. Now, Barry Jackson and Daniel Oifusi, they put out their take on the whole situation. And they said Dolphins Tua Tagovailoa remains in concussion protocol, won't participate in Pro Bowl. 1 month after being diagnosed with his second concussion in the 2022 season, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa remains in the league's protocol and will not participate in Pro Bowl activities, a league source told the Miami Herald. Tagovailoa was named a first alternate to the Pro Bowl, meaning he would get an invitation if one of 3 AFC quarterbacks named to the Pro Bowl team were unavailable to participate due to injury or their team advancing to the Super Bowl. Tagovailoa is now guaranteed to be invited because either Mahomes or Burrow will play in the Super Bowl. However, the 24-year-old will not participate in the All-Star event as he continues to recover, the source said. Tagovailoa has not had... There you go. Right there. Tagovailoa has not had a setback. So why are people flipping out? Why are people flipping out? I don't get why people are flipping out. That's what just doesn't make sense to me. They're telling you he's being deliberately held out by the Dolphins. And on top of that, he hasn't had one single setback. And people are panicking. And people are absolutely losing their mind. When right there, he's had no setbacks. But doctors are being cautious in his return from what was either his second or third concussion this season. So they literally tell you he hasn't had a setback. They're just being cautious. So y'all are losing your mind over him not playing in the underwear Olympics at the Pro Bowl because doctors are being cautious and he hasn't had any setbacks and they don't want to give it the chance for him to have any. Think about that for a sec. Think about that. We already heard his dad say he's their guy in terms of Miami and Tua. Praise the staff, praise McDaniel. And all of y'all are flipping out because he can't play in the underwear Olympics. Unbelievable. Make it make sense, man. Make it make sense. And I mean, we'll go even further right here. I had this in the docket all week. Look at what Hal Habib put out an article on the whole concussion thing. It's not often that Dolphins general manager Chris Greer pushes back with the force he used when asked if Tagovailoa's history with concussions doesn't place him at a higher risk of suffering additional concussions. Of all the issues confronting the Dolphins, it's difficult to find one more critical not only to their future, but Tagovailoa's. So any conclusions by Greer, the Dolphins medical team, and Tagovailoa's doctors must be reached with the gravity they deserve. Don't experts believe Tagovailoa is placing himself at increased risk by continuing to play? Greer said that is not a true statement. Greer's stance is supported not just by the team and union doctors Tagovailoa has seen, but independent experts on concussions who have not treated the quarterback. Dr. Joseph Maroon said just because a football player suffered concussion does not automatically place him at a greater risk of another. Maroon is a neurological consultant for the Pittsburgh Steelers and a clinical professor at the University of Pittsburgh. He's also a member of the American Association of Neurological Surgeons, which on its website cites the University of Pittsburgh's Brain Trauma Research Center in saying the risk of concussion in football is 3 to 6 times higher in players who have had a previous concussion. But there are many gray areas in the subject of concussions, and for Maroon, this is one of them. My caveat, if the brain is not fully recovered, there's a higher incidence, he said. The caveat is critical. The Dolphins season just ended, so Tagovailoa could go as long as September without being subjected to contact again. Given all offseason with no more contact, the odds are very, very positive that he would be returning next year, Maroon said, adding that he would not have any added concern for... So there you go. A doctor is telling you he wouldn't have any added concern for Tua Tagovailoa's well-being. One of the head neuro physicians at the University of Pittsburgh telling us this. Maroon and Dr. Gillian Hotz, director of the University of Miami's U-Health Concussion Program, stressed the importance of giving the brain time to heal before returning to play. Tagovailoa suffered his most recent concussions on Christmas against Green Bay, after which Mike McDaniel repeatedly said decisions on when Tagovailoa could ramp up activity were solely up to doctors. They're the experts in those fields, and when they tell us he's ready to play, then we'll press forward, McDaniel said. But then Tagovailoa had sat out the Miami Dolphins' final 3 games, including a wildcard loss to Buffalo. McDaniel and Greer said Tagovailoa will continue to be the franchise quarterback. I don't think he's any more prone than anyone else. And then Chris Nowinski, again, he's agreed. He's a co-founder of the Concussion Legacy Foundation, and questioned and to ESPN whether Tagovailoa's issues this past season may have been the result of rushing him back on the field, not durability. Nowinski said it's unfair to say Tagovailoa is concussion prone. A cluster of concussions or even long-term symptoms does not prevent a successful return or long career, he wrote. That's not to suggest there's no limit on the number of concussions a player can suffer before a doctor says it's time to hang it up. I've advised many to give up hockey as well as football, Maroon said. Before reaching that point, Maroon looks for lingering symptoms, issues with cognition, and abnormalities on scans. He uses a before and after snapshot of an athlete's cognitive skills, which is possible via the impact test, which Maroon helped devise in the 1990s with doctors Mark Lovell and Michael Collins. Taking about 20 minutes, impact measures skills such as brain speed and ability to process information. It has been administered 23 million times in all levels of competition. The before baseline is established in preseason. Following a concussion, the test is repeated to help determine when to clear an athlete. Tagovailoa became a national focal point when he was injured September 25th versus the Buffalo Bills. He returned to that game with the Dolphins, saying he had suffered a back injury rather than a concussion. 4 days later, during a primetime game against Cincinnati, Tagovailoa suffered a concussion, requiring a trip to the hospital. The Dolphins' problems were multiplied the following week when his replacement, Teddy Bridgewater, was judged to have stumbled by the NFL spotter high above. It disqualified Bridgewater from the game. Here, too, might soon be another tool to take subjectivity out of the equation. Maroon sees potential for a mouthguard developed by Prevent Biometrics that measures the G-force of hits. Those statistics would be accessible to spotters via transmitter after every play. If experts agree on a maximum level of G-force before a concussion occurs, it could remove unnecessity from cases such as Bridgewater's. The mouthguards are in use in rugby's overseas. I think something like this is coming to the NFL, Maroon said. So again, doctors again, he's not more susceptible to concussions. And everyone pretty much agreed. Give the mind time to heal, and if that baseline gets back to normal, he's just as susceptible to concussions as someone who's never had them before. So, I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, people come out here and they just flip without reading and doing the research. Man, a lot of y'all be talking about him retiring or really putting forth, opinions like y'all got PhDs or you've examined the kid yourself. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's moronic people like good old Derek here, that don't know football. and that you just got to send to the bench. You know what I mean? Bench. All right. Now, let's continue on with Barry Jackson's. We've done the first two parts. Let's go into the third part and the fourth part of his series. Now, the third part is going to go over it's going to go over some statistics that are very intriguing, and then the fourth part is going to talk about backup options. So, we're going to go over that right now, and we'll show y'all exactly what that is. Shout out to everyone in the comment section. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. Over 400 of you in the chat. Please subscribe if you're new. Smash that like button. If you'd like to donate, paypal.me/Phinside. You can also donate through the super chat. Also, become a Patreon or a channel member. Channel members, you get exclusive access to emojis in the chat, and Patreons and channel members get exclusive access to insider information that I have. And on top of that, Patreons, they get a weekly video every Thursday, 3 Takes Thursday, where I give 3 takes on either 3 different topics or one topic. So check it out, patreon.com/Phinside the NFL, or become a YouTube channel member. I appreciate all y'all for supporting me. Let's keep it rolling. So here's the third and the 4-part series. It is where Dolphins Tagovailoa ranked in 20 league categories and why it's so encouraging. Durability, not ability emerged as the biggest concern for Tua Tagovailoa this past season. When he played, he was very good more often than not, even beyond leading the league in passer rating at 105.5 and yards per attempt at 8.9. Tagovailoa graded out well in several other areas. A look at where he finished in 20 more nuanced categories. Among all quarterbacks who threw at least 30 passes that traveled at least 20 air yards, Tagovailoa was the most accurate, completing 54.5% of those throws, 30 of 55 for 990 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 picks. By comparison, Patrick Mahomes completed 44% of such throws, Joe Burrow 38.5%, and Justin Herbert at 35.3%. He was 24 of 68. Tagovailoa's 990 yards on such throws were fourth behind Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins, and Russell Wilson. Keep in mind that Tagovailoa missed 4.5 regular season games. Here's the area where Tagovailoa improved the most. His 91.6 passer rating in the face of heavy pass rush was second best amongst NFL starters, behind only Josh Allen at a 96.7. Keep in mind that in 2021, Tagovailoa had a 54.8 passer rating, which was 51st in the league when pressured. He handled those situations so much better in 2022. When he had a clean pocket, Tagovailoa had a 109.4 rating, which was fourth in the league behind Mahomes, Goff, and Hurts. That was an increase over his 103.3 clean pocket rating in 2021. He led the league in passer rating inside the opponent's 20-yard line at 112.2, but it fell to 93.6 inside the opponent's 10-yard line, which was 8th in the league. His 103 quarterback rating in the first half of games was 6th. Mahomes was first. His 109 quarterback rating in the second half was best in the league, ahead of number 2 Dak Prescott at 106.1. He was second best in the league in percentage of passes that were converted into first downs. Of his 400 throws, 162 were completed for first downs. That 40.5 trailed only Mahomes at 42. He finished fifth in passing yards per game at 279.9, behind only Mahomes, Burrow, Herbert, and Brady. He also finished fifth in second half completion percentage, 67.9, behind only Geno Smith, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan, and Burrow. He was fifth in completion percentage inside the opponent's 20-yard line at 63%. He tied with Mahomes for the highest percentage of touchdown passes among all his throws. Of his 400 passes, 25 went for touchdowns. That's 6.3%, tied with Mahomes for best in the league, just ahead of Buffalo's Allen. He completed 73.2% of his passes on 1st and 10, which was fifth best in the league behind Smith, Burrow, Garoppolo, and Andy Dalton. Despite missing 5 second halves, he was 7th in the league in second half touchdown passes with 13. Of his third down throws, 44.3% went for first downs, also 7th best in the league. Despite his struggles in San Fran and Los Angeles, he had a higher passer rating on the road, 107.3, than at home of 103. The road passer rating was 4th best in the league. The home passer rating was 7th. He led the league by a significant margin in passer rating under the shotgun at 107.8. Mahomes was second at 102.7. You see more at ease running out of the shotgun with run-pass options available. When Tagovailoa had 4 receivers in the game, he led the league in passer rating at 117.8. Garoppolo was second at 109.7. But when he had 3 receivers in the game, he was 10th at 97.3. He was sacked just 5% of his pass attempts, which is 6th best. Tagovailoa continued to do a good job avoiding pressure, even though he isn't considered among the league's most mobile quarterbacks. He was much better when he got the ball off quickly. Tagovailoa led the league with a 114.1 passer rating when he had 2.5 seconds or less to throw. He was 5th among starters with 94.7 when he had 2.5 or more seconds to throw. So he was at his best with quick throws, with rhythm and timing, as opposed to situations where he had to scramble. And really, I mean, he fell from 1st to 5th. So is it really that big of a drop-off? I mean, look at all those numbers. Again, I'll say it before, I'll say it again. Too much production for them to pass over. They're going to bring in a contingency plan that can take his job. Everyone knows I love me some Baker Mayfield if that's going to be the contingency plan. Or, or hey, if you can get Derek Carr, knock yourself out. But they're going to bring in a contingency plan. But you look at all those numbers, man. And he missed the amount of time he missed. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Even more impressive. Now, part 4 in Barry's series. It's exploring the Miami Dolphins' backup quarterback options and who's most appealing. It's bad enough when your starting quarterback has durability issues, but when your backup can't stay healthy either, then you find yourself in an untenable position like the Dolphins were in Buffalo when they're forced to play a rookie 7th-round pick. With the Dolphins committed to Tagovailoa as their starter next season, they must find a backup who's less injury-prone, because even Teddy is, than Teddy Bridgewater, who had 2 concussions in 2021 and knee and pinky injuries that signed him for a combined 7 games in 2022. Examining a realistic look at Teddy had 2 concussion issues last year in 2021, and Teddy had no concussion issues this year. So we've got the example in our room right there. Examining realistic backup options. Jimmy Garoppolo. This one is complicated because some team will likely be willing to essentially handle the starting job, something the Dolphins will not do. He's also the most expensive backup quarterback option on the market. Miami would need to allocate at least $12 million in cap space to sign him, and that's several million more than other backups would cost. Keep in mind, he's been good in recent years. I'm good. Also worrisome, tore his ACL in 2018, missed time with an ankle injury in 2020, missed 2 games in 2021, and then saw this past regular season end with a foot injury in Week 13 against Miami. So he's not exactly durable. Andy Dalton, if the Dolphins want him back to compete to be the starter again, this wouldn't be realistic. Otherwise, he would make sense. He had 18 touchdowns, 9 picks, and 95.2 passer rating in 14 starts. Gardner Minshew. Though he only won 8 of 24 starts in his career, he has a solid 93.1 passer rating with 44 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. As Philadelphia's backup the past 2 seasons, he went 1-3 with 7 touchdowns, 4 picks. It's a clear step up from Thompson, more durable than Bridge. I would take Taylor Heinicke over Gardner Minshew. Next is the guy I would take, Baker Mayfield. After Mayfield and the Browns parted ways, he didn't impress in his 6th start for Carolina, throwing 6 touchdowns, 6 picks with a 74.4 passer rating, and the Panthers went 1-5. But after the Panthers released him, he had a somewhat better success with the Rams, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, and an 86.4 passer rating in 5 games and 4 starts. But he went 1-3 as a starter and 31 and 38 in his career. I like Taylor Heinicke or Baker Mayfield the most. Taylor Heinicke, he could return as a backup with the Commanders or be given another chance to start. If not, worth considering. He's 5-3-1. He went 5-3-1 with 12 touchdowns, 6 picks, and an 89.6 passer rating this past season. He's 12-12-1 with 34 touchdowns and 24 picks in his career. Cooper Rush, no. Mike White, no. Sam Darnold, no. CJ Beathard, no. Nick Mullins would make sense because of the experience, right? Him and Beathard have experience with McDaniel, but I'd take Mullins over Beathard. Drew Lock, Case Keenum, And then they got Bridgewater, Brissett, Kyla. Really, give me Heineke or Baker Mayfield if you want my honest opinion. Mariota's interesting. Mariota's an interesting one. But I mean, give me Heineke, give me Mayfield, and then the rest is just like I'd take Jimmy G over them, right? Over the rest of them. Right? I have Jimmy G third on my list, but man, you give me Baker, let's go. Let's go. Minshew's all right. Minshew's an all right option. I wouldn't hate a Minshew. But to me, Baker and Taylor Heineke are the cream of the crop of that. Drew Lock's always intriguing, but I don't think he's going to get right. I think he's ruined. And then Minshew and Jimmy G would be the other two. You know, my first two options, Heineke and Mayfield. And then my next two options, Minshew or Jimmy G. I'm fine with that. But again, some of these guys got durability issues, just like Tua. We need someone with no durability issues. All right. Guys, check this graph out. This graph, how often offenses left their offensive tackles on islands in the 2022 season. Look at the Miami Dolphins all the way to the left. Look at that. Why does this matter? I'm going to tell you why this matters. It's what I've been stressing all year. They didn't have the personnel. They still don't think they have the personnel. McDaniel does not have the personnel in the offensive line he has to execute what he wants fully in the pass game and especially in the run game. I mean, you got Teron Armstead, and that number should at least be higher than that. What is this? Teron Armstead was the only one they were leaving on an island? And then you go all the way to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. I've said this before. I'll say it again. Take it as a guy who used to have the Eagles as a second team because I love Donovan McNabb. Those guys have been turning over offensive lines for 20 years. And look at that. Look at the Eagles. My Lord. But that just shows you they're not trusting the personnel. Why don't they trust the personnel? Because they don't have the right personnel in place to fully execute how they want to execute. I know it's a conversation some of y'all don't want to have, but it's the truth. You saw our opponents get released, the list of our opponents for next season. Well, I just want to show you this graphic. Guys, right now as it stands, the Dolphins have the second strongest schedule. We got one of the toughest schedule next year. In terms of strength of schedule, right now the Dolphins rank number 2 behind the Eagles. But the Eagles are at least in the NFC Championship. So, you see the Jets and the Bills and the Patriots are up there too because of who our division is facing. But the Miami Dolphins, once again, next year go with another tough schedule. Well, I mean, you look at where the Bengals are all the way down there, huh? Unbelievable. So, there you go. Second strongest, second hardest schedule coming up next year. And then a little Flores tidbit I thought all of y'all would find interesting that I had that I forgot to show earlier this week. Shaq Lawson said he was told by one of his former teams that he should be seen, not heard, as opposed to with the Bills, where he's encouraged to be himself and show his personality. Said that's one of the reasons why he loves being here and hopes to be here next year. Man, you don't even got to tell us who it is, and we know who you're talking about. Brian Flores, come on down. You're the next contestant on Who's the Asshole Head Coach, huh? So, I mean, absolutely hilarious, man. Absolutely hilarious that players are still throwing this guy under the bus. Just some respect him enough to not drop his name, right? Kind of funny to me, man. So, listen. Not enough people are talking about the fact that DeMeco Ryans looks like it's a wrap and he's going to Houston. And that means Jonathan Gannon's going to be staying in Philadelphia for another season. Philadelphia beat reporters are reporting that. Looks like it's going to be the case. So the door is wide open for Fangio. I'm not worried about Carolina like some all of y'all are. Listen, when you look at the talent and when you look at the coaching staff, McDaniel seems like a safer bet for Fangio to hitch his wagon to than it is to hitch it to a guy like Frank Reich. I'm just going to be completely honest. We saw how the Frank Reich saga and scenario went in Indianapolis. It was not pretty. Right? And he got a guy in Carson Wentz who had his best offensive year under Frank Reich. And, you know, at one point Carson Wentz was tuning everyone out in that Eagles coaching room, but except Frank Reich. So I'm just saying, I don't expect Frank Reich to turn Carolina around. I really don't. So, and hey, we'll see. If you are a Patreon, you know, not only have I heard Sean Desai might come over here with them, but patreon.com/Phinside the NFL, and you can find out the third name I've heard will be coming over with him, because I'm telling you, I've been hearing he's been piecing together ever since the even just before we heard that Josina Anderson reported that we were negotiating terms and the conditions with Fangio. I was hearing that he was slowly putting his staff in place, and, you know, let's go, baby. Let's go, man. It's going to be a very, very interesting next 7 days, because I think the Eagles get knocked out this Sunday, and I think wheels get into motion. Listen, I appreciate all of y'all spending some of your Friday night with me. Over 400 of you in the room. Please smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. If you'd like to donate, use paypal.me/Phinside. You can also use the super chat, or you can become a channel member. Just go hit that join button right next to subscribe, or you can become a patron, patreon.com/Phinside the NFL. Each thing has its own perk. I'm going to get out of here, guys. I appreciate each and every single one of you rolling through tonight and showing love on this Friday night. You already know what time it is. If something breaks this weekend, I will be back. Enjoy playoff football. If I'm not back Saturday or Sunday, expect your boy on Monday. Love each and every one of you. If I don't see you, have a fantastic weekend. Stay happy, healthy, safe, and blessed. As always, baby, fins up for Fangio.